Morning. This is the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee of the for the city of Rehoboth Beach. Today is Flag Day, right? June 14th, 2024, 10 a.m. here in the Commissioner's Room. We have here assembled our committee, or 4 of our 7 members here today. We had a number of people that couldn't make it, and but anyway. I'm going to start off with a roll call.
Robert Van Horn here.
He's here.
Andrea Hoffman, here.
Jennifer Duncan here.
And Chair Bunky Markert. We have a quorum, and we're prepared to discuss the item on our agenda today. Just while I'm going through this, did anybody get a chance to look at my abbreviated minutes for the previous meeting in February? And
Yes,
would somebody like to make a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thanks. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so we got that out of the way. All right. Well, let me. Whoops. I want to kind of give a little bit of background, I guess, obviously for ourselves and for posterity as far as this committee goes. For the last several months, I mean, going back, I think to late last year, I'm not even sure exactly when this started, but the Commissioner, Tony Sharp, had posed basically a revisit to how the committees, the various commissions and committees, are organized, and the commissioners at a number of the workshops and at I think several of of our regular meetings kind of discuss this, and the main issue has to do with. And I would say I'm going to be maybe editorializing a little bit, but hopefully not too much. And also, I hope that this is not a meeting where I'm talking the whole time. Anyway, I got to go through this. But I would say generally we have commissions such as the Planning Commission and the Parks and Shade Tree and so forth, and they have their own sort of requirements but we have a number of committees as well, like the Environmental Committee, this committee, and others. And there's no necessarily standardization as far as that goes. Just to provide a little bit of history, this committee was once a community committee organized by members of the community. It was a sort of an ad hoc group, and later got sort of recognized by the city under when Sam Cooper was mayor, and it became the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees. That would have happened before 2017, I believe, and it has functioned much in the way of the community group. And it was sort of in advance of, we had a very long protracted period where we revised the tree ordinance, and I think we were involved in sort of supporting that, and were basically not so much, certainly supporting it, but also to kind of engage the public so the public sort of understood about how it worked and all that kind of thing, because it became somewhat of a complicated process, and people generally didn't understand unless they had an occasion to deal with the city as far as the tree ordinance was concerned. People weren't really engaged with it and all that kind of stuff. But over that time, we have sort of taken on and absorbed a number of different activities where we kind of have our own agenda, so to speak. And I don't think that's been a problem or anything, but I think some of the criticisms or desires to make changes to the committee structure that Commissioner Sharp was trying to develop had to, you know, it was more in terms of who's leading whom with regard to the committees. We had a number of situations where the committees would make recommendations that the commissioners weren't necessarily interested in getting involved in and so forth. So it became a little bit difficult, I would say. It didn't really create a tremendous problem, but we've kind of gone along and done our thing, and I don't think we've had anything that's been controversial or anything like that. But also, you know, we are sort of an advocacy group, but we're advocating for something that the city also advocates for. So it's not like an anti kind of an organization, you know, an anti-process or anything like that. But anyway, I don't want to make this a real protracted discussion, but I think where we are right now is just in terms of where we're headed. Commissioner Sharp, she did re-present this at an earlier commissioners meeting, and she basically kind of, I want to say, backed away from it a little bit in that she felt like the commissioners weren't really solidly behind making changes, and I think the mayor wasn't terribly interested. He didn't really want to make. I think there were certain suggestions and so forth, but she was planning on introducing sort of another group that would take the place of some of the committees and committees. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm trying to use my standard language here. But anyway, all I can say is we've been in kind of limbo for the last couple months, and now I feel like I don't think there's going to be any major changes in this at the moment. So, you know, we have the ability to sort of carry on. But I think in so doing, what we carry on with will require some kind of buy-in from the commission. So, and what I was hoping to do today was to, put our heads together, kind of, freely talk about some of the things we might want to do, where we want to continue doing and so forth, and just come up with like a roster or a list of things to present, and then I will take this to our next a workshop meeting, which will be next month, and then we can kind of get hopefully some buy-in, and that's my purpose for today. So, and I thought we had hopefully, a little less than an hour maybe to go through that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So I did have a brief conversation with Susan Gay, who was also the chair of this committee before I was, and so she has sort of a vested interest as a member, but also, she cares about it and all that kind of stuff. So, and she didn't give me anything specific, but I just want to say that I will be talking to her and getting her input, and hopefully in a subsequent meeting we can talk about it further. But anyway, so that's kind of where we are. I can go into more specifics, but I didn't really necessarily want to get in the weeds over all this. Anyway, I'm interested in hearing what you all think. I don't know if you want to start,
Sure.
open with something, fine.
So one of the issues I think that I'm sorry. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, one of the things that Commissioner Sharp may have been concerned about, now I'm just hearing this, okay? I haven't spoken to her directly or anything
Right.
like that, is that this was using, and some of these committees were using resource from the city that wasn't necessarily available.
Right.
And so I've been mulling that over and thinking, excuse me, about, how to address something like that, because I understand that.
Yeah, right.
And so are there ways that these committees could reduce resource? Now, I think resource is, time and the time it takes for the administration of the meeting, that stuff, more than the volunteers, of course, but printing, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So one of the things I was thinking is it possible, rather than having a meeting every month that's scheduled, do we have topical meetings? I'm throwing this out.
Yeah.
Rather than, if community members bring something up to a committee member, or if a committee member has an issue or thinks this is something we should address, it goes on an agenda for a meeting. And maybe if we get 3 or 4 items that need to be discussed, we call a meeting, something like that. Now, I'm just throwing that out. That's just in an attempt to try to address Commissioner Sharp and maybe some other commissioners or other people's thoughts on that. But that's really all I was thinking in regard to that.
Let me just address that. That's not a bad idea. Okay, that is one of the considerations and concerns, and I will say in our particular case, and this is something else that I'll just share with you that I've learned as of the last meeting that we had. But you know, we had a city arborist, Liz Lingo, who has left, and she's still somewhat available, and they have somebody else who's trying to cover for some of her services, and then Mary Ellen is doing the same and so forth. But they have not filled that position yet, and that was something that we had a discussion from our HR person, staff HR person, that they're having problems with that. Similar to, because it requires a certification. You can't just be city arborist because you like plants, and trees and all that kind of stuff. So, and the problem is people who have that credential can do a lot better, in the commercial sector than they can here. And then the issues with being local and having a house and all that other stuff, that compounds the whole thing. So that's sort of another, issue layer or whatever, with regard to like what we're doing. So, right.
Can I just ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So how far away are we from identifying an arborist? The city wants to fill that position,
Right,
correct?
and yeah.
So, and we found that in this committee, at least in my experience over the last few years, and Andrew and Jennifer, I don't know how you feel about it, but I found the arborist to provide valuable
Sure.
information, was a valuable consultant for the committee. I mean, I think that's really very important
Right,
to have that input. So how do we get that?
She was more than just a consultant. I mean, she ran,
Yes.
one of the things that I'm proposing, I think we should get back to having some of the programs, the workshops. She ran the workshops.
Right.
So really important.
So I'm wondering my first question is, how close are we to hiring an arborist?
They are actively seeking. It's
Right.
not like they have a table or anything.
And
like
is there room for, rather than, if we cannot, or at least on a temporary basis, hire a consultant for that? I'm not talking about this committee, but the city itself, to consult
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to.
It's a good
on
question.
a sort of temporary or on a 6-month sort of basis, or however the city or the commissioners would want to work that. But I think as a community, we're losing out here, and as a committee, we certainly are losing out, and we need that position filled.
We do.
So,
That's not in dispute.
Okay.
But here's the key, or at least something that I feel about is, I think a group here can be of some service.
Yes.
And I think we can also be of service garnering other people to get involved, and I understand that it requires managing that, and it's not something that we can say, oh, we're going to do this and then hand it off to them and say, do it. We really can't do that, So we have to be involved in the management of whatever it is that we're planning on doing. And I'm not saying that we're not, but that's just something that we have to do.
I mean, you have proof of it, given what happened this winter.
Yes.
We got permission from the state to
Yeah.
do some work, and this committee,
right,
pulled
right,
together a group of
right.
people that went and worked
Yeah,
in the.
and it was kind of
So-
for naught because what happened to Deauville, I mean, but we handed off. We handed it off. To
Nonetheless,
them,
nonetheless, I mean, I think we
right.
should do it again.
Yeah.
I definitely think that area needs to be cleaned, and it's our community. I mean,
right,
it's us.
right.
regardless
So,
of whether or not the
exactly.
state is administering.
Right.
Well, we got permission, though. I mean, that was the
Right,
huge
right.
thing.
And we can certainly direct our attention to
So-
other areas and everything, but that's something we can do.
I do want to say that I do believe that this committee has, if we are advocates, we are active advocates, and we have a lot to show for what we have done.
Sure.
You know, between Arbor Day, the commemorative trees,
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't.
yes,
I
all
didn't plan
kinds
on
of-
like having an inventory of all the, I mean, we kind of did
No,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Anyway,
Yeah,
Jennifer has
I-
something to say.
I recommend we come up with a list of the things that we do annually. You have Arbor Day, you have the cleanup of, if it's not the Doval Beach area, then it's
Something
someplace
else.
else.
Right.
You're planting trees. You brought in someone from the University of Delaware to
Right.
talk about what we should plant, what we really shouldn't plant, and
Right.
what will work here, and if you don't,
Right.
if you don't have an irrigation system, this will grow,
Yeah, right,
and trees to plant and trees not to plant.
right.
So I think there are a number of subject areas that we hit on every year that should be repeated every year, because people do come and go.
Yeah,
Houses are bought and houses are sold, and they just kind of look around and know they're, in my opinion, they're not gonna go to the city website and look for what tree they can, but if they have the information from a group like this, and they go, oh, okay, I can go out to this nursery and get that,
Right.
and that will work, and I
Okay.
can call this landscaper and get this done if they don't wanna do it themselves, so.
yeah.
all right.
Edu-
So, anyway,
education.
let me just, it's great that we're all talking and everything. I don't wanna say we're leaving what you're, it's duly noted what you're saying and everything, but, and, I'm not using the but word, I'm using the and word. That, I think we're on the path of this, okay, so, the other thing, there was something there I wanted to mention, like, we were sort of touching on the cleanup project. That is certainly something on my list, because I found that, and I was pretty, well, you set it up, and we just sort of described on everything, but I got to be there that day, and I got to sort of meet the people and engage with them, and they were like really happy about the whole thing, you know, and it didn't take that long. I can't imagine that we would want to get involved in something that's going to be like a longer term kind of thing. I mean, I think we ought to try to make it kind of bite size, that something we can accomplish in a day or an afternoon or something like that. But believe me, the other thing is I get regular calls from Kitty Cole, who is our local treasurer. You know, she's going to be 101 next month, and we care about her and everything. But she gets, obviously, with her vision of or and memory of how things were and how things are now, she gets a little, you know, frustrated about things are not how they used to be. And in some cases, I don't think we can achieve that. But at the same time, I think there are other avenues, not necessarily specific to her, but sort of with regard to Lake Girard and some of the other, you know, there's other areas of concentration I think we sort of have to think about. There was one other thing that was on the top of my head here that I'm losing now. No, I'll probably get back to it, but
Until we get an arborist, are there people that we can recruit to put on workshops who are experts in some areas? Because otherwise, there's just this,
I do have, I guess I can start a list right here, but I think one of the things is cleanup, and I think we should do that periodically.
Right.
And be on the lookout. I think that area really needed it, and we could go back
Right,
there.
right.
But there are other areas as well. So I think cleanup,
Okay.
and it's communal. I mean, that's what's wonderful
right,
about
right,
it.
right.
Really a
People
community
loved
building
it.
thing
People
was great.
really,
Yeah.
so, okay, so cleanup is on the list.
Yeah.
Second thing, we used to have, and we didn't do it that often, but when we did, we had people come. I think that we should have a fall pruning workshop.
Okay.
The last time we did it on trees. And what became clear from that is that most people have people come and do their trees because they're big, they're tall, and they're dangerous to do. However, in talking to the people that attended, what they said they would really be interested in is learning how to prune shrubbery.
And when?
Hydrangeas and when.
Yeah.
And basically,
Now,
the time is
I will say, well, I guess we can do it in the fall, but a lot of that doesn't happen in the fall.
it's spring and fall.
Well, I think it's
Fall,
early pre-spring. I think it's pre-spring. You know, I think it's like February now, you know, to do it. Now, whether or not when you'd want to do it, you know, and have people then wait to do it. But I think a lot of that stuff, like I know, like speaking of hydrangeas, you got to get that like right before, when there's like less of a chance of like there being like a hard freeze or something like that, but not necessarily pre-frost, you know, or when frost is over. But I think that's the time. And I can just say personally, I always miss it. And I don't do it soon enough and then that kind of thing, so.
well, I would like to propose
Yeah,
that
well,
we see if we can get
Are you
something
thinking
going.
just write down?
I have.
Okay,
I
good.
have
Okay,
it.
good.
It's here.
Somebody do that.
So Andrea, in that case, are you thinking a workshop for people, or are you actually thinking about going out and doing?
No, we did it. We went, Liz took us to a tree and we pruned, and there were about 6 of us.
So it's like a living workshop?
It was a living workshop. You brought we told you what tools to bring, we told you how to dress, and yes, we had a group come. I would like to repeat that, and I will find out when the shrub thing is. Now, what I have, if there's no Liz, there are several master gardeners in Lewis that I've been in touch with, and I can see whether I could get one of them to do this for us.
Okay,
But I would like to do
sure.
I guess I was thinking, when we did the trees, it was October, I believe. September, late October, it was the fall, that's all I
Okay,
remember.
I mean, I think it can be, you know, but I would just say that don't rule out winter, because I
Okay.
think.
But there's nobody
when
here
we
in the
would do- We
winter.
don't have to get like
Can
in the
I add
planning
to
stages.
that? Because this brings up something that, so can that be a category, like living workshop, not just pruning, but Jennifer's been,
it's-
about the ivy, for example.
Yes,
Ivy
living,
cleanup as a living workshop. Maybe there are some other items as well.
Okay.
And so
Well-
we could look that as a focus to keep the community involved. I think the living workshops are a wonderful
Because I
idea.
know our next door neighbor, and I don't know what kind of plants these are, but he is not hiring a landscaper this year, but doing it himself. And we lent him our ladder so he could get up over the fence.
Did you get it
And
back?
he said, no, he's not done it yet. He said, I can't prune these and cut them back until they've blossomed. And this is June. So it's not necessarily like fall, spring. Some of these are dependent on what kind of plant it is. So I think those kinds of things would be helpful to
I just
know.
did my hollies last week, little kind of pyramidal hollies, which may have been wrong, but they do get watered. and
So
all that kind of stuff.
categories, living workshops,
Yeah,
the cleanups, I have one,
okay, go right ahead.
trees not to plant.
well, yeah, I mean,
That's partly in the
we
ordinance,
sort
right?
of, yeah,
What
it's
is
in
that
the
in?
ordinance.
That's kind of part of the
We-
ordinance.
Well, no, I meant trees you can plant, but you really shouldn't. I
not-
was gonna talk about my walnut tree.
We're getting there.
Okay,
That's gonna be
because
the
that's
big
one you
payoff. That's
don't
gonna
want
be
to
the money shot.
Plant.
What was I gonna say?
Can I interject one? And this is something coming from you. I think we need, if we're thinking about some kind of community involvement thing, we have to have some kind of watering team and figure out the water.
That's that's on my list.
Talking about that for years.
I know,
That's
but we
on my
gotta make
list.
that happen. And let me just give you my own little personal thing here. I was involved in a photo op about a month ago that I got enlisted for some reason through Lynn. And I was with the part-time guy whose name I can't think of. Is it Pete? Do you know? I'm asking. I think his name's Anderson or something like that. Do you know who this guy? And he's the guy that worked with. He was part-time, and I think he only maybe worked in the summertime or something like that. Worked with
Mimosa
Liz,
Park.
yeah, But anyway, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he was a nice guy. And we went over to,
Was it
we
Tim?
planted that,
Was it Tim?
Tim?
What's Tim?
You don't know, she don't know. Anyway, we planted a tree over by Lake Jawar, kind of closer in. It was replacing, well, they had to knock down these two
yes,
willows,
I know
weeping
what you mean.
willows that
Yes,
were
yes,
dying or
yes.
not, they were falling apart or whatever. So we went and planted them and all that kind of stuff, but has it been watered? I have no idea. And that's not something we did, that's something the city did, but we can be part of that solution, hopefully. And then obviously, the other thing's talking about the stuff that gets planted over by the school and all that, we got to get that together, I think.
Well,
I'm ready to do it. I have a bucket, I can do all that stuff.
let me just say, I just was over at the school, and you'll be very happy to know the 3 trees that we planted this year for canopy for the outdoor classroom, they're looking good. I would love to get some people together. I have the wood and I have the wire, and I would love help putting a
Cage around?
cage around those trees,
Okay,
the 3 that we planted this year, so that the same thing doesn't happen to the 3 from 2 years ago.
okay,
I have the stuff. I
Okay.
bought it,
all right, okay,
okay?
yeah.
I
So,
think they actually have systems for that are just like a plastic with poles that go around.
yeah, I mean, I just happened to, I have the wood, and then I bought it at a secondhand store a lot. It just, there was a sale on, the stuff. So there probably is.
Okay.
The question is, do we have any money? Do we have?
No. Well, here's what I'd say. This is me talking, and this is kind of sidestepping it, but I could give money to the tree fund. I could make a donation to the tree fund, or I could just pay for that stuff.
Okay, well, I mean, I
can
have
make
done
a
that.
contribution. I mean, that's not.
I
that's
will
not a
tell you that I spend money on Arbor Day,
You're right.
and I have never been reimbursed. And this year I put in for it, and I
Okay.
was told no.
Really? Okay. Well, but we have to get that pre-approved. I mean, that's really what we got to do.
Okay,
all right.
okay. So I have one other thing that I would really like to do. I don't want to be, anybody else have any other things?
think- Let the thoughts flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would, well, there are 2 things. We've had lectures lately. We've had annual lectures now. It's been,
Right.
we're on a roll
And
here.
I think we have to
And-
think
and it-
about
Yes.
lining this up.
So one that I'm thinking about now that we're trees and green infrastructure has to do with a lecture on what native plants go into your garden. We've done sedges, we've done grass and replacements for lawns, we've done trees, and now I'm thinking about flowers. And I don't know exactly how we would do this, but I guess, could we get a couple of landscape people, like our own Kate, to come in and,
I think we would have to talk to her first.
yes, oh, of course,
yeah,
of course, of
we'd
course.
have to
But
give her a
could we
little
get,
preference.
could we get a bunch of landscapers in to talk about what flowers, annuals, both annuals and I guess
Yeah, I think
perennials.
that'd be a great program. And I would, this is also, the fact that we had our lecture in February because it got kind of delayed, as a result, I think we would be, if we can get that back to the fall,
Yes.
I think that
and
would be.
I don't know who does flowers, but I think it's a landscaper, and,
Yeah,
I- if
Well,
anybody knows,
I mean, we can talk offline
Okay,
to
yeah.
to Katie.
Katie would be an awesome.
That's what I'm saying. yeah.
yes. So, but anyway, so I would like that to be this year's, if that's possible, because I think that's really the next step. We've covered everything else.
I also wanted to interject, one of the things that I had a conversation with Susan about, that she felt like, I don't know if this is nixing it, but that whatever she was planning on doing with regard to the mapping and all that kind of stuff, that she really hasn't gotten, for whatever reason, IT has not been able to sort of deliver on that. So I think if we're going to table anything, I think we probably table that until the foreseeable future, see what, but it's just, it's kind of weird to have it continue to be on the agenda and then we're really not getting anywhere with it. So I just wanted to put that out there. There might be something else we can do instead or some other thing. And the other thing too is, if you think of other things, send them to me or whatever, and we can, continue to compile them. I didn't mean to be putting you all on the spot, to, come on, let's come up with some ideas.
I got one more.
Okay, go right ahead.
We had a visitor come and speak about Arbor Day and how I would love to give some trees away on Arbor Day. I don't know where the source would come from, but what happens?
Some right here.
Yeah,
We're getting there.
but those are
We're
not
getting
for
there.
here.
This is a setup.
Yeah, this will be the setup.
Yeah.
What do places, yes, what do places do at the end of the season with trees, like Wharton's and even, I don't know, Walmart? What do they do with the trees at the end of the season that haven't been sold?
They just cut the prices and get rid of them. I mean, if you go to any of the nursery places and stuff,
They cut the
they're
prices.
just like, and they're kind of the rattiest trees they have, I mean, they sell them, they figure out what they're gonna sell, and then they get rid of them, and that's really the best time to plant trees anyway. The
Exactly.
larger trees and things, so.
Think we'd have any chance of going to a Wharton's or a whatever and asking?
I think
Has-
someone tried that.
Yeah,
Who
I
tried
don't
it?
know, I
Do you
mean,
know?
we,
I don't remember.
Because
but it
I've
came
been
up last year.
suggesting it, but I don't, I never went. Somebody did?
I don't remember who, but it was kind of like,
I
I think it was Liz Lingo who told us.
Oh.
They just said, don't even bother.
yeah,
And I could be wrong, but.
I mean, I
but-
think of,
But I have another subject area. What about a, not a contest, but you know how they have the cottage, pick the cottage? Oh. You know how they have the pick the cottage, and they get a plaque? Why can't we do that for people who've done green in their yards instead of grass?
you're talking about an award thing?
Yeah.
Well, what's the other one besides, there's Cottage Award and I thought there was like two different groups that promoted that.
Elise has in front of her, I mean, there are awards that people have for having, I've seen them.
Right.
There are some people that have,
I thought there was one that was sort of later, I don't know who was the sponsor of it, but there's the Cottage Awards. And who's that for? I can't remember who that's for.
That's the homeowners association, right?
Is it homeowners?
I think that's the homeowners association.
it's the Art League, isn't it?
I
Is it
thought
the
it
Art
was.
League?
It's the Art League.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah,
Art League or
it's the
something.
Art League.
Yeah, it's another organization. I don't think it's necessarily Rehoboth-centric. No, because I think I've been to one of those things and you got to go out to.
It used to be, but
Yeah,
it
right,
isn't
but-
anymore.
but
Yeah,
it's-
so I'm just talking about the yards that have turned into green and not grass.
Right. And there's some, they're increasingly
And
are.
that maybe would promote more people to do something similar.
Well, and I think
Thought,
this is my bright idea, to sort of augment that. Why don't we make a video? Instead of having a thing, producing a video.
well, you could, but you'd have to ask permission of the,
Like go to somebody's house.
You have to
and
ask-
have them discuss their lawn,
yeah.
or their project or something like
Oh,
that.
wait a minute, that's okay.
Write that down.
Video.
But I'm just thinking doing that, and then we can put it out there. It can be, see, the other thing, I think generally, is I think we need to be either creating or proposing content on a regular basis to Lines in the Sand.
And she's very willing.
And
to
she's
take
more
it.
than happy.
Yeah, she is,
'cause
she is.
we're
She's very
feeding her
willing
stuff,
to.
But I think that's got to be sort of like regularly on the agenda, much like walnuts are.
Okay, we're up to walnuts. So,
Well, why don't you give a little background on your
there's
your
a little
walnut?
background on my little experiment. This past November, October, a neighbor brought me some walnuts that had been, he had taken the husk off.
Well, let me slow down. What kind of walnuts?
Oh, these are black walnuts
All right.
that were picked off the ground behind Grove Park
All right,
along the canal.
okay.
And he took them home and he husked them and had some of the soil that was around the fallen walnuts, put them in a baggie. I'm simplifying this.
Okay.
Put them in a baggie, brought them to my house and said, we're going to Florida. I want you to take these and put them in your refrigerator until the end of March or early April. So I did and made sure everybody knew that wasn't cake mixed, don't eat those. And brought them out towards the end of April and planted them in small pots with garden soil. And this is June 14th, and 5 of the nuts, seeds grew, and they are now each 3 feet tall, and they are this large. Now, with that said, I'm surprised that I was able to take something that was smaller than an egg, and I mean half the size of an egg, and it grew. And not only did it grow, 5 of them grew. Actually, there were 6, but a squirrel got to 1. But this is what you need to know about black walnuts that are native to Delaware. Arbor Day Foundation. This native tree has been called our best friend in times of war and peace. Native Americans and early settlers used them for food, dyes, ink, medicine, fence posts, gun stocks, and furniture. Now, while black oaks are very valuable for their wood once they're grown, there are a couple things that we need to know for those of us who live in the city of Rehoboth. The black walnut tree roots produce, I think I'm pronouncing this right correctly, juglone, Juglone, which is a toxin. And it is not only in the roots, it's in the tree, it's in the leaves. And if you plant a black walnut tree near pines, potatoes, tomatoes, blackberries, alfalfa, and apples, you'll find that they may not thrive. The toxin may kill them. The toxin is also, the tree is also toxic to dogs, cats, kids, adults, and horses. Now, squirrels love them, so do foxes, so do other small animals. So I guess my lesson learned here was, yes, I can take a seed of a tree, a nut of a tree, and I can grow new trees. So if we can do this with black walnut trees, then we should be able to do it with the abundance of acorns that fall within at least the pines and other trees as well. There is a black cherry tree that a neighbor started from a seed 2 years ago, and it is now in one of the parks, and it's like 4 feet tall. So they're native, they're there, there's no reason why we can't try these things if we want to. And they're really cool experiments for not only adults, but little kids too. Sure. Except for the black walnut tree, anybody listening to this, do not touch and try to open the husk unless you have industrial gloves on, because the interior of the husk will stain your hands, your clothing, anything they touch. and it will be, could be months before that stain comes off of your body. And a point on that is an ancient use of walnut ink, which is still made today. People make walnut ink and use it for sketches, calligraphy. It doesn't fade, it lasts forever. Anyway, an ancient use of walnut ink was to stain the hands of criminals in Roman communities. Once stained, it's impossible to wash off and remains on the skin for a long period of time. So, I have,
I think we need to invest in walnut tattooing.
yeah, I have 5 of these trees that are on my front porch that I do not believe should be planted within the confines of Rehoboth because our yards are small. We have lots of animals, dogs, cats, and 2-legged people, kids, others. And, but they need homes. I hate to just pitch them. So if you know anybody who wants one of the 5, they're ready to go to their new homes.
Yeah.
I'm going to take one.
That's all I
Okay,
have.
well, that's good. And, but.
Jennifer, I just want to add real quick. So I grew up on a farm,
Yeah.
and we had black walnut trees all over the place.
Yeah.
And we had horses and cows and dogs and cats and
But
kids.
they were
and
okay?
No problem. Yeah.
Ours is- this
you have
was
to
just
really
from the net.
eat and dig or make a tea out of it or something like that.
Okay.
That would be a problem. But I can attest to, as a kid, when we would shuck those black walnuts,
Oh, your hands.
we would have that ink on our hands for literally for weeks. And it was always a funny thing. And we would shuck these walnuts and crack these walnuts for my grandmother and my mother to make
It's amazing that every part of
icing
the tree
candies.
can be used.
Yeah.
And that they germinate themselves.
The squirrels do a good job for us too.
Did you like them or did you, as a kid?
Yeah, we would eat them while we were
Yeah.
picking them and shucking them and
Okay.
yeah. We
I
did
mean,
that
you don't
with
have to roast them or anything, right? They're just a.
well, you can bake them, but no, mostly we just
Yeah.
did it raw, ate them raw. And
Get a bellyache?
sometimes it depends. We got a bellyache from a lot of things.
Oh, Andrea had asked how fast they grow. They grow 2 to 3 feet a year and can grow up to 70 to 90 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good sized tree.
They're amazing trees, but they can be very messy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people shy away from them, but they're beautiful.
Yeah, we had one in our backyard in Northern Virginia.
But
Well, following up on that, I have a thing going just personally with this, with the elementary school. Last year, I had a bumper crop of red oak acorns. And I talked to the science teacher, 5th grade science teacher, and I brought over a bunch of acorns, and I brought over red Solo cups, and I brought over dirt. And this was for the 5th grade to foster an oak tree. And as it turned out, I now know because I talked to the science teacher for next year, we're going to try a white oak. And the acorns are going to go into dirt. And anyway, they didn't sprout. So it was not done last year. But they have all the material, and we're going to try again this
were they
fall.
in freezing conditions over over a period of
No, but they
weeks?
were, what I need to do this year is to take them when I collect them and put them in dirt with a little bit of water so that will get them to sprout.
they need to be outside or
Yeah.
they need to be cold.
Right.
They need at least a few days of below freezing temperature in order to.
Ah, okay, well, that, I appreciate
Most
that.
North American deciduous trees must have that.
Okay, because I think it would be wonderful, to know where the mother tree is, and then for the 5th grade to deal with this. So we're going to try it again in the fall. But thank you for that. I did not know about that.
But this, and I'll just add one more thing, because I have oak tree in my yard, I can tell you the squirrels do a wonderful job of doing the planting for us. I have to go through my yard every spring and pull out the saplings that are everywhere.
Yeah, I have to ask, how do they know where they planted them? When they come back, we have holes.
So that's the trick. They don't,
They don't?
No.
They don't. They just look everywhere. They plant everywhere and they look everywhere and they have no idea what they're doing.
Following up
They
on,
have short memories.
foster a tree.
Well, I think we should have a contest. Each of us pick a different kind of a tree and see what we can grow.
Foster an oak tree, foster,
Absolutely, yeah.
A dogwood tree.
foster a dogwood.
One thing I wanted to throw in there was some of the things that we have done in the past, and if we're trying to catalog these things, but our annual pitch at the farmer's market, I think for a
Oh,
year-end
yeah.
thing, I think we ought to do that. I got to maybe figure out a more effective way to do it, but, yeah, I didn't get much traction.
When
Last year.
did you
I
do
did it, during
Thanksgiving?
the
Did you do,
holiday.
you did Thanksgiving?
Yeah, whenever that was.
God,
but-
because that was a huge seller and you didn't get much.
Well, maybe it was me. I don't know. And maybe where I don't know. It's like people didn't have their like head around it because they were looking for gifts and things.
Would anyone like to go to the farmer's market and sit with the commemorative tree stuff this year?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And maybe we don't have to do it then or whatever, but
But, I mean, I put it out,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean,
Because
I
I
didn't
can
want
get
to
you-
lose that.
You know, I'm still working there, so, I mean, I
Oh,
can, I
okay.
can get you
Okay,
a tent.
yeah, all right. Whatever, but I just wanted to.
Yeah,
wanted
farmer's
to
market,
keep that-
yeah,
keep
yeah.
that in the
Well,
loop.
that's the commemorative, that's really commemorative tree. Let's put that in as
Well,
a,
no, I was saying the tree program.
okay.
Yeah, so, what we have out in the lobby, as a fundraising for
The
the tree
commemorative tree.
program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
right. Well, anything else? I mean, the only thing I just keep thinking, but I think it's good that we had this little discussion. I think we've covered some territory here, but,
Can we go back to watering?
yeah, let's
Do you have some thoughts?
To me, it's just a matter, I don't know what needs to be if we could come up with like what we feel we need to water, how often it needs to happen, because like Kate, for example, she walks every day. I don't walk every day, but she walks every day. And she can certainly, in her walks, assess how the trees are doing that are on her walk and that kind of thing, And if we do that and realize that they need to be watered or something like that, then we can go over and I was thinking you can, like at least the ones near the school, you can get the water out of the lake, just take a bucket, and just pick it up and take it over and dump it on the tree. I don't think that would be all that hard, just to take a bucket with you or have a bucket stashed over there somewhere, and a rope maybe. I mean, that's how I would do it, so.
I mean, there are some issues, I think, that have to be considered, like where is the water coming from and whose water is it?
I'm taking it out of the lake. Silver Lake, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not grody or anything. I mean.
Well, I mean, I think that for, maybe around the school, there are hose bibs. We've done that before. It's a hassle, I know.
No, it's, I
But
think you donated the hose,
Hoses,
did you
right.
not? Yes? It was miles.
yeah.
I don't think you can get a hose to it.
But I think that, in my impression, and I only know this because of experience in Philadelphia, I have a couple trees that are not mine, that are down the street, that the city puts in and then does nothing with, and quite frankly, the people who live in the row house right in front of it or in the townhouse not do anything. And I knocked on the door and asked them, and, I said, can you water this, or it's been here? And they said, well, the city put that in, that's their problem. So now I haul buckets of water, and they wouldn't let me use their hose bib. And so I haul buckets of water from my house about a block and a half down to try to keep this very beautiful tree alive. And I can tell you, for me, it needs about 3 full buckets of water 3 times a week in this heat.
Do you have a spigot close by like we have in Grove Park?
No, this is in the city. So the problem is, I'm thinking even here, so I'm trying to relate that. If there's a tree somewhere, like for example in Girard, Lake Girard, or in that area, where, it really needs to be done in this kind of heat, a new young tree needs water 3 to 5 times a week.
Big green thing you put up around them.
I can
So
attest,
gators are great, but you really need a hose
Right.
to fill them with. And so I've tried filling a gator with a bucket. It's nearly impossible. You waste half the water.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, even with watering, I'm thinking about that tree.
The one in the middle.
Yeah, the one in the middle that we planted a few years ago, I guess year before last year. I think that this is really an issue. And I'm wondering, the cheapest thing I can think to do is to get a little red wagon or a wagon and some sort of a very large container of water and just wheel it around attached to a, I mean,
Right. No, I don't mean to throw cold water on the idea. I think we need it. But yes, we need practical thinking like that. But it's going to take some planning, and it's going to take organization, and it's going to take people.
And coordination.
Especially in coordination, especially if you need to water a young tree 3 times a week at a minimum. That takes a good amount of coordination and effort, and that's something we think about. And we've talked about this. I know when I first joined the committee in the past, we talked about doing this and trying to buy a truck, a little mini truck to go around with and water things, and it just never got any traction.
and it's really, the more we plant, the more I see that it's really, really necessary.
That's what I'm saying. We gotta come, I still feel, even if we had a wheelbarrow or a wagon or something like that, I think we could accommodate it.
The water is very heavy.
The only other issue is.
If you use
Are
buckets.
there gators on those trees?
Yes.
Yeah,
there are
we-
gators on
yeah,
them.
yeah,
But
we-
the ones that we planted this year are far too, I mean, they're closer to the lake than they are, there's no way you could get a hose out there.
Right, so, but I'm just figuring, I don't see, if there's a problem with, like, can we, like, I have this kind of funnel, like this, it's a funnel, but it has like a long hose thing on the end of it. If you could rig that up and get that in the gator, you have a larger opening that you could dump a bucket into it, you know what I mean, something like that.
But to fill a gator, you'll probably need 4 or 5 buckets of
Yeah,
water,
you
which
might have to
requires hauling.
refill it, you know, but, or, you know, keep doing it. And
that's
how
a
big
lot-
a bucket are we talking? I'm talking like a 5-gallon.
5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, okay.
The buckets are very heavy. We did this before Liz Lingo got us the longer hose. Remember? And we thought we were going to die. Those buckets are heavy, and it takes, like you said, 5, 6
Right.
to fill each one.
Yeah, so I mean, these are practical things that I think can be overcome.
right.
We just need to think about it and how to
Right,
approach it.
okay.
I think the idea of like a wagon or a few wagons and a few carboys that we could fill up with
I can
water is-
donate a wagon. I have a wagon.
Do you have a wagon?
It's my personal wagon, what I had when I was a kid. But
Or doesn't the
you
city
can
have
have
any?
it, you know.
No.
It's pretty groovy. It's got like flames on it and stuff, you know.
So,
But I think this is something maybe we could continue to
Yeah,
discuss.
well, okay,
because
well, let's-
you're
let's-
right. We're a little late in the game this season to be
Yeah.
trying to
Well, we
coordinate
gotta-
something, or certainly teams of people. Again, I'm thinking a community. This is, again, another thing that's going to require a community, not just the few committee members here.
but it's also going to require water sources.
Yes.
And the one that was put in, is it Lake, where we planted the trees last year, in that little park? We were in Central
Central
Park,
Park?
in Central Park. There is a spigot there that
Right, okay.
they put in.
And in Grove Park, too. Like
And in
John
Grove
mentioned.
Park, and in
They're
Grove
all
Park.
over town.
Well,
You have to
I
look
mean,
for them.
I guess there's one last thing I want to just add to this list, and that's Arbor Day. And I would ask people to think right now about next year's site. If there is a place that people think we need more trees,
Okay,
okay?
sure.
That would be very helpful.
All right.
But that's on the list of annuals, right?
Okay, all right. Well, listen, I was trying to keep this in under an hour, and we're practically there, so do you feel as though you've given the walnuts a proper presentation.
And a proper presentation, just,
I'm-
they're
I'm-
fun,
I'm-
you can use every part of the tree, but I just would not plant one on a 50 by 100 lot in Rehoboth, would you?
We have one in the back.
You do?
It's not, it's a border tree between several homes.
Oh,
And, yeah, it's behind, well, you know where Keith is and we are. So it's in our backyard, but it's on the border, in the back a little ways, not on our property, but the folks who have they face Columbia. So it's right there.
well, I have 4 more if you want them.
They're a handful, but they're beautiful trees. And so
They
let me just
are.
throw one more thing out. You were talking about the commemorative tree program or having something at the farmer's market. Maybe this is something for next year, where if there are trees that are saplings that are propagated, oaks, walnuts, whatever, give them away to people. They want a little gift.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Could get a little sapling in a plastic container and say, this is a canopy
Right.
hardwood tree.
Totally.
It'll live for 125 years if taken care of.
I mean, if those fifth graders come through this year, we'll have them.
Yeah.
We'll give
So-
you food, medicine, furniture.
The black walnut ink tattoo,
Yeah,
the kids would
they,
dig
s-
that.
the artists actually make, still make the ink.
Yeah.
When you think back about, when you watch the old movies from the 17 and 1600s, they're putting their pen in that inkwell. It's probably black walnut ink.
Well, you could give kids temporary tattoos, but don't tell their parents that temporary is relative.
Temporary.
It's a seasonal tattoo. All right, well, listen, I'm just looking at our agenda here, but we have no citizens. And anyway, I think we've kind of talked ourselves out here.
We had no correspondence.
No, I don't think we got it. I can imagine, but anyway. All right, well, I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna adjourn this at 10:58 or thereabouts. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So what do you want to do with it?
Where's your grandmother's
Take a
farm?
picture of this for the.
We all, yeah,